So tell me how you ended up in Cuba.
I ended up in Cuba, as part of the solidarity trip with Code Pink, Nuestra America Flotilla. But I'm a local organizer in the Twin Cities, and I actually want to study medicine in Cuba because it's free there for Americans, which is really cool. So going with my husband, who is also trans, in September, hopefully, or got one more interview. And, I'm an organizer with the Twin Cities Tenants Union, the Planned Parenthood, Union, and the, which is SEIU, and also with a group called Women Against Military Madness, the Solidarity Committee on the Americas. So we are just like a bunch of LGBTQ and feminist, anti-imperialist organizations and labor unions, tenants unions. The tenants union is actually really interesting because it's like against ICE. And with respect to like my trip to Cuba, I've been trying to talk a lot about, Milieri, Cardente Fernandez, who was involuntarily sterilized by ICE in 2020, which is a really disgusting thing and very underreported. So, as an abortion care worker, I really value like the ability to speak on that, especially since so many Cubans, don't know about it as well. And it's a thing that I think is really important for the safety of people who travel back and forth between the two places, as well as something that, like, you know, as someone who cares about bodily autonomy and reproductive justice, obviously is really disgusting. So I had like a bunch of banners and stuff that I brought with us, a bunch of medical supplies to connect with the doctors, and all those medical supplies get distributed in like less than a day for free to everybody. So it's really a beautiful thing to be able to go with the Nuestra America Convoy and with you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, actually, you're one of my favorite people on the trip.
Oh,
now
you
let's just
too.
say, oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, that's just, okay. So then, okay, so you live in Minnesota where abortion is legal. How do abortion services just Minnesota to Cuba compare?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, profoundly impacted by the blockade, but it's also really, profoundly impacted by like progressive legislation like the family code in Cuba. The abortion care that I do is really important for so many people because they will often travel from outside of the state. A lot of people go to Minnesota for healthcare. It has, outpatient abortion care at my clinic. And that's something that doesn't require sedation. I mean, it does require sedation, but not anesthesia. And anesthesia adds a lot of money. So people can come to us and pay kind of like between $800 and like $6,000 for a more intensive procedure. And, you know, of course they have to take time off of work and they have to pay for travel and all of that stuff. Sometimes we can get them funding. Of course, in Cuba, abortion care is free, but the blockade, it really specifically impacts the healthcare system. Trying to like privatize and create like strength to private markets, which is really sad because like having abortion be free is part of the family code. Like Cubans really want everyone to have access to gender affirming care, to abortion care. And like it's actually really interesting because Planned Parenthood also does, gender affirming care. And, for both of those things, like for example, testosterone, which I take, that is also used to treat cancer. So like it's hard to be like prioritizing an elective thing, which is extremely important, but over something that could be life or death for someone. And so few people, due to the imperialist blockade, are able to medically transition in that situation. So it's just a huge like the barriers are there in both places, and it really depends on who you are and what your situation is. If you can get through those barriers to do you know, what you need to do for your health. None of these things are easy decisions for people. So it's really beautiful to see the Cubans like value through the family code, like protecting children, elderly people, trans people, lesbians, bisexuals, gay people, intersex people, you know, all of those things. But in, Minnesota, we also like, we can't, we have so much money. My city, St. Paul, has, a street repair budget that is, 7 times the military budget of Cuba. And that, and if you ask anyone in St. Paul, they're like, they never plow the roads. Like, can we actually plow the roads? Because it snows every year. So it's not new. Like, it's just a constant complaint. And, in Cuba, like, they have so little, but they stretch it so far. And so it's like, it's hard because like there's inaccess in both places. But in Cuba, it's due to the blockade. And in Minnesota, it's due to our privatized healthcare system.
That's so well said. How did, wait, had you been to Cuba before?
I actually, my first time out of the country was to visit East Cuba, which was hit by Hurricane Melissa, 2 weeks ago. So 2 times out of the country, first 2 times, and in the same month. I brought like a ton of insulin, anticoagulants. ICE took my EKG paper, but like a lot of like syringes and needles and things. And, they were all distributed, within like probably less than 24 hours in Holguin, East Cuba. And that was a place where, despite the lack of access to these things, those people, who got those things they couldn't previously have had, 9 of 10 of them own their homes. I didn't see a single cop while I was there. Like, as compared to my city, like, it was just amazing to see what the public services were doing and what they would have been able to do if they had had more money. Like, is just like difficult to imagine for someone coming from the United States. I mean, you talked to me a little bit about, I actually traveled for top surgery.
Yeah.
To South Carolina.
Oh, go into that. I'd love to hear more about that. Or whatever you're comfortable saying.
So it's like, it's really difficult to, have to wait for surgery. People in Cuba know this. People in, throughout the states know this. People with state insurance know this. People with private insurance who pay know this. But, you know, sometimes you have to travel. And that was me. When I first tried to get top surgery, it was in South Carolina. So did my husband. But as we were going through the process, it turned out the doctor was operating out of his basement and 2 of his patients had recently died. He was losing his license that fall, but they were still like down to schedule us. And it was the cheapest like private, top surgery that we could find. Now it is something that's protected in Minnesota. But like the system is new and it's struggling with the defunding from the Trump administration.
When you say it was the cheapest, can you say how much he was going to charge?
I think it was if I remember correctly, it was gonna be about $6,000 per person.
6,000 was the cheapest. How expensive does top surgery get?
Oh my goodness. Probably like $60K would be like a really expensive one. Like
That's several cars.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, for most people, I think if you paid privately, you'd end up paying about $20K. But like it would depend on what you needed to get through the process. Like due to my body type, needed a kind of top surgery called double incision, which is more invasive. It requires more time off of work. For most people, you know, they have to choose between double incision or another kind of top surgery. I think it's called keyhole, but it's just like, it doesn't require, as, large of an incision is invasive of a surgery. But it's really common to need double incision surgery. You know, a large variation of people need that. And, so those tend to run more expensive.
To talk about the decision, you guys ultimately did not go through with the dangerous South Carolina top. Talk about the decision and why you ultimately decided not to do it.
We decided we wanted to live. We were like, let's not die trying to get this. Let's make an attempt to get on state insurance in a state that is going to be able to provide gender affirming care to us in a safe way. You know, of course, and
then can you talk about where you assuming you guys got it, where you ultimately got it?
I did get it.
If you're comfortable talking about it, yeah.
Absolutely. We got it in Minnesota, which is where I currently, you know, where we moved in order to have that healthcare and also to work in that healthcare at my clinic. And it's also like, it's kind of cool that it's connected to Cuba because they have like so much opportunity for people to learn this for free. The average debt is $500,000. If I wanted to do abortion care, for low income people right out of college, I mean, that's a lot of debt to pay off on the salary of someone doing, low resource medicine for people with, without private insurance. At least that's what would be my goal.
So the average debt, a doctor who wants to go into an abortion care, to become a doctor, the average debt is $500,000.
To become a doctor, say you want to do abortion care, the average debt is $500,000.
That's like super, and people, yeah, because that's even bigger than my generation, the student debt crisis was crazy, but that's big. I've met people with $200,000 in college debt, but $500,000 is a lot, more. Okay. So we're going to do the last question. So yeah, what's your favorite? It could be a joke about supporting Cuba or about being a trans man or just your favorite joke. But yeah, just because I'm a comedian, tell me a joke you like. And the more personal to you it is, the better. But no pressure.
Okay. Oh gosh. I should have thought on this on the way over. Oh my goodness. Okay, I have a little story that I think is really funny.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was in Olguin, I was volunteering outside the Linden Hospital to pick up trash. And Cubans, they're so resilient and they're well dressed often. And I was in Olguin thinking I was going to have to backpack in supplies. But the doctor that I, got connected with, he actually picked me up in a taxi. So I got dressed in gym clothes to walk 5 hours with a stretcher with my husband with 300 pounds of supplies. And, I was not looking sharp. And so I bought some random shorts from the street. And we were picking up the supplies and I bend down to get it and I just get a beautiful SpongeBob moment right in front of all the cardiologists and these elderly folks who are helping and being so in solidarity. And I completely ripped my pants. And then I had to go home and I got lost while I did that.
Oh.
And they were like, we'll help you get home. And I'm like, no, I got this. And then I got lost for an hour.
Oh, that's so sweet.